Welcome back to stage 2 here in sunny Marbella. I keep saying that, but the sun is still shining and I can actually see the sea over here. So if you haven't been able to join us, maybe next time you'll get sick of me talking about the great weather and the fantastic facilities that we've got here. But talking about fantastic things, we've got Henry from ClickDealer next, who's going to talk about rediscovering Evergreen Verticals, lead generation in 2021. And don't forget, if you've got a question, you can put it into the chat box and I'll be back a little bit later on to put those questions to Henry. Henry, over to you.
Awesome, great. Thanks for the introduction, Ralph. I'm definitely excited to be here. I mean, I'm in Toronto, Canada, so the weather's not as nice as it is for you over in Spain, but definitely excited to share about lead generation today and everything that's going on. So we can definitely jump right into things here as we kind of dive in with the presentation. Again, if you have questions at the end, we can definitely dive into those as well. And I'm happy to talk about traffic channels or anything that anybody wants to talk about. So let's flip over and we can jump right on in. So as Ralph has already said, we're going to talk about rediscovering Evergreen Verticals and lead generation in 2021. All of that to say is I'm going to talk to you about why we think you should be running lead generation, why it's profitable, and what we've learned, especially after a very difficult year and a half with the pandemic, especially in North America, and how there's still opportunity for affiliates who want to get into something a little bit more evergreen or old school. So let's start with who ClickDealer is. And for many of you who may be there or seeing us at this conference, you probably know ClickDealer for our dating side of things. And it might be a little confusing, but we're definitely very much focused on lead generation. In 2012, we were founded. We now have a global presence in Europe, Asia, and North America. We work with over 10,000 global partners. That's on the supply and demand side. So we obviously have a very large presence in the digital marketing and performance marketing industry. In 2018, we actually launched our own network and tracking platform, ClickDealer platform, that has really been a catalyst for what we've been able to do for lead generation. It's allowed us to provide better service and technology support to our partners. In 2019, based here in North America, we actually launched our lead generation project, a specialty team focused just on the traditional and white hat, if you will, on evergreen verticals of lead generation. And then fast forwarding 2 years, as kind of some social proof or some evidence of what we've been able to achieve, in 2020, even during a pandemic, we were able to sell just over 250,000 leads in home services as a vertical. So that's home renovation and home services. And we're looking to double that already this year. So we learned a lot in this short period of focusing and working with our partners on supply and demand. And I'm here to share that with you today. For those of you who may not know who I am and saying, who's Henry? As Ralph already said, my name is Henry Whitfield and I work for ClickDealer. I am the head of international business development. So it's a wordy title to basically say that I manage our supply and demand side for our international affiliate program. And I have a large focus on our lead generation platform and team. My background's actually in journalism and broadcasting. So we're definitely going to talk about ad copy today and why that's important when we talk about driving quality leads. And as Ralph already hinted at, I'm actually not in Spain. I'm based here in Toronto, Canada. And I, over 7.5, 8 years on the network and performance marketing side, but a background in SEO and lead generation going back longer than that. So with all that out of the way, let's dive right into what we want to talk about today, which is lead generation. We're going to start by defining lead generation for everybody. I know whether you're there in Spain or at home, everyone's got a different understanding of what I mean when I say lead generation, or just in general, what people think lead generation is. So we're going to set the stage and we're going to define that clearly and basically give you a foundation as we move forward today. We're going to talk about the state of lead generation here in 2021. Obviously, a lot of challenges in the last year and a half, but we're also going to talk about the opportunity and what B2C businesses are seeing and why there's opportunity in lead generation for you as an affiliate or media buyer. We're then going to talk about the meat and potatoes of this presentation, which is Evergreen Verticals in 2021. We're going to define what we, from our partners and our own insights, see as the 6 main pillars of lead generation in 2021, and then pivot towards how you can adapt to the volatility of these markets and of the changes that go on, whether it's traffic channels or a global pandemic. And finally, we're going to wrap up with driving quality leads, talking about how you can drive leads and why it's important, which is actually going to set up really nicely for the presentation after mine, which is with Jason Hunt, talking about driving quality leads on Facebook. So a little bit of scheduling genius here from the guys at TES. So let's dive right in and talk about lead gen. So for those at home who are maybe questioning or don't know, this is for you. For those of you who are experts on lead generation, don't worry about it. So what we're talking about today is lead generation. So basically driving customers or sales for products and services. These are going to be generated through a number of ways, whether it's paid or organic. It can be Facebook or social. It can also be email lists or organic traffic through search and other areas. So a lot of different ways to generate leads, but they're all going to be qualified either through a form or a sales agent. So that could be a call center or someone following up. On the back end, metrics are going to be different per advertiser. They could be a conversion point of an appointment being set, a financial deal being made, so a contract being signed or a sale, or something as simple as a DVD with more information for something like a mortgage refinance being sent out by the broker. So all those metrics can be different per advertiser on the back end, but on the front end, most affiliates are seeing either a rev share on a CPL or a CPA. Again, it's important to understand both sides, because as an affiliate, you need to know what an actual sale or conversion is on that back end for the advertiser. And to simply put it, what we're talking about today is driving real leads and real customers for real services and real products. This is going out there and dealing with plumbers who are coming out in the middle of the night because you have a leaky sink or a roof replacement being needed, or something like legal help for DUI, or maybe a class action lawsuit. So there's lots of different things that we can go and talk about. The basic emphasis is real services and real customers for real products. And that's everything we're going to focus on today. Before we dive into what we see as evergreen verticals, I really want to talk about the state of lead generation in 2021. And just so we can set the stage, obviously, in the last year and a half, it's been challenging with COVID-19 and the pandemic affecting both the North American market and the European market differently. In North America, we started amazingly last year in January, February with home services. It was the best we'd seen, and people were just going crazy over how strong the market was. Obviously, in March and April, with the pandemic rolling in, there's been a lot of changes, a lot of pivoting away from stuff that's based on in-home appointments or the challenges of regulations, like not actually being able to go and see a project. That forced companies to do stuff like innovate with drones for roofing, or doing virtual appointments for home services. These kind of things have actually benefited long-term, and we saw a big impact where home services actually doubled or tripled through the rest of the year last year with some of these changes. But let's talk about the actual data and the numbers. And some of the things that provide challenges, but also opportunity. One of the biggest challenges of being a digital marketer is people not wanting to see ads. So we know that 45% of people in the US between ages of 15 and 25, so it's the future and the present, are using an ad blocker. So they're blocking your ads, and that's a huge concern. So we have to look at why lead generation can avoid this and why it's positioned well with either organic websites or with mailing or with proper quality lead generation, how you can get around this 50% of that market that or higher in other age groups that are avoiding seeing your ads. We also look at the market size, and we can see that over $3.2 billion is going to be spent a year by the year 2023 in digital lead generation advertising. It's a huge pocket of money for you as an affiliate marketer to be tapping into. On the business side, or the B2C side, why are businesses looking to work with affiliates or networks? It's because they're seeing a much higher ROI and return on their investment by outsourcing these leads. A lot of these companies aren't experts with Facebook or native or search. And what they're looking for is a partner that help drive them quality leads and keep their ROI nice and healthy. So we're seeing 43% better results from outsourced lead generation to companies who are doing it in-house. And then based on that, we're seeing over 50% of businesses planning to increase their spend on social like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, as we move forward based on these results. And so as an affiliate marketer or a media buyer, there's a huge opportunity there for you to drive quality leads, build out a business, and rely on these businesses who want quality leads. And when we talk about quality, one of the other challenges is that over 50% of B2C businesses report that finding partners with adequate expertise or knowing their subject matter, being able to drive quality is a huge challenge. And that's where someone like ClickDealer or Network comes in, or if you're working direct, really understanding the product or service. So all of this to say is I can summarize this very simply. There are obviously challenges with lead generation that make it harder to convert than maybe your typical affiliate campaigns or offers, but there's huge opportunity with the size of the market, the stability of the market, and the ongoing demand for leads. So to dive a little bit further, we'll talk about the top challenges that businesses have been reporting in 2021, and again, why there's opportunity. Number one, we're seeing budget issues. So obviously, if companies are having a poor ROI, they're spending too much money, they're not getting the leads that they want, it's a huge challenge for them. Finding partners with adequate topic expertise, as I just discussed, is huge for companies. A proper ROI or a lack of clear return on investment is over 43% of these businesses. There's a huge percentage who either don't understand the ROI they're getting or are not getting a proper ROI. And so that's where, again, affiliate marketing, performance marketing comes in as an opportunity for these businesses to work with experts and also increase that bottom line. And the last one that I think is really important is that finding people who can deliver consistently on time. And that's where being a reliable affiliate, going into a multi-channel approach that we're going to talk about, providing consistency can make you hugely in demand. So let's dive into the meat and potatoes of what we want to talk about, which is finding evergreen verticals in 2021. So we've cut this down. I would have said before last year, we probably had 10 or 12 what you would call evergreen or businesses and verticals you can run 24/7, 365. But what we learned from the pandemic, not everything is evergreen. Things can go down. And so we've been able to limit this to 6 main verticals and offshoots that we think you as an affiliate or as an advertiser can focus on and get evergreen results. So you can run it through a pandemic. We know it's pandemic proof, and we know that it's able to run through different changes, whether it's Facebook rolling out updates, Apple rolling out updates, whoever is rolling out an update these days, you as an affiliate or media buyer can rely on these verticals to always be there, to have demand, and want quality leads. We start with insurance. Insurance, obviously during a pandemic, we saw it's very resilient. People looking for life insurance, health insurance, home insurance, funeral and end of term insurance. People are always looking to protect their investment or protect their family. This doesn't matter whether it's a North American market or a European market. This is just a fact of life. And so insurance is always going to be there as an opportunity for you to drive quality leads to. Finance is pretty self-explanatory in terms of people are always going to be looking for mortgages, to refinance their mortgage, to look at loans or credit applications or debt relief. That's something that's evergreen and is always going to be there. Now, again, with finance, you get a little bit into the tricky side with regulatory changes. So we've seen, debt relief and other types of offers that are not being advertised properly, being minimized. However, as an affiliate, thinking about quality and long-term benefits, there's always ways to work within these verticals in a clean white hat, if you will, manner. Our next kind of vertical, which is probably the biggest that ClickDealer works with, is our home services and home renovation. This is a huge market that goes everywhere from emergency repair. So let's say 1-800-plumber because you've got a leaking sink and your house is flooding, all the way to bathroom remodeling, kitchen remodeling, or home automation with a brand like Vivint, for example, where you're looking to automate your house with, let's say, a Nest or a thermometer, security cameras. All of that comes under the home services vertical for us. The fourth, and it's pretty self-explanatory, is education, whether it's an online college or a program like learning how to use Windows, or it's an in-person college or university, all of these businesses, and they are businesses, are looking for more applicants and more students. Legal, again, another self-explanatory vertical, but that's because it's always going to be there, whether it's DUI, whether it's a mass tort, like a class action lawsuit, like Roundup, or for example, the Johnson & Johnson case going on right now in the US. There's always opportunity to drive leads for legal. Lawyers are especially good at driving their own leads, but there is always opportunity for you as an affiliate marketer to build out a brand and an opportunity on Facebook or search or native and a multi-channel approach to drive legal leads. And lastly, but probably an overlooked vertical, is senior care and elder care. There's always a demand for verticals involving seniors because there will always be senior people in our community that need stuff like medic alert, emergency bracelets for when people fall down, for walk-in bathtubs. That's a huge opportunity, or chairlifts for your stairs. So these 6 verticals we've seen, especially during the pandemic, are stable and evergreen. And if you're willing to put the time in to build out a multi-channel approach, you're willing to drive quality leads, we know that these 6 verticals are pandemic proof and they're able to be there for you when you need them. And so the second half of this presentation is, how do I become an evergreen affiliate or media buyer to be able to match up with these verticals? And before we dive into that, we have to talk about how to adapt to change, especially after the last year and a half that we've had. So how to adapt to volatility is one of the biggest questions, because even in a pandemic, or in case of change, let's say flooding, or for example, Texas losing power this past year, we're always looking at how do we adapt to those changes, because that affects our bottom line as marketers. And how do we capitalize, but also help people when we're talking about our emergency services or products that we're able to advertise. Remember, we're talking about real people, real customers, looking for real services and real products. So there's 5 main pillars that we look at when we talk about how to adapt to volatility when it comes to staying competitive in these evergreen verticals. Number 1 is knowing your audience, and this is pretty self-explanatory again, but knowing who that customer is and understanding what they're looking for and who that demographic is, whether they're male or female, or whether you have to target by zip list in a specific country, or county or state or city, and really understanding who that audience is that you're pitching your product to, so that you can then cross-sell them. The next coming up, we're going to talk about cross-selling and why knowing your audience is super important. I've already mentioned it a few times, but using a multi-channel approach, especially when we're talking about ads, is super important. This year, we've seen 2 huge challenges, one based on a traffic channel and one based on a device type. Facebook, and obviously the rollout of Facebook conversion API and other changes in their platform have really seen a huge hit on some people when they're talking about the ROI on Facebook. And so if you're only relying on Facebook as your traffic channel, you've had a pretty tough year. You've maybe adapted and overcome some of those challenges, but not the same way if you had a number of different traffic channels going. We can also look, for example, at Apple and the changes that are going with iOS devices. And so obviously the ad tracking issues that people are facing, if you were only targeting Apple users or a combination, you could be in big trouble. So we look at stuff like Facebook to generate and get email so that you can now have a mailing list, or using Facebook to grow an organic website where you become an expert and you have content, and then now you're getting search in as well. So you've got search going and Facebook going and email going. And if one of those 3 goes down, you're able to double up on something else while you adjust, while you overcome those challenges. And in lead generation, you have to be adaptable, use a multi-channel approach so you're able to provide those leads consistently. You'll also see, as you develop these other channels, you're going to be driving more quality because they're going to all kind of feed into each other. If you're using Facebook as your initial point of contact, you're able to develop an email list. Now you're mailing. Now you're also pulling back to your website and building up an audience there. You're now growing your audience and becoming more of an organic brand. You're actually building a business, not just an affiliate campaign that's going to get paused. And that's why using that approach is so important, to be able to adapt when the times are tough. Being focused on quality is super important. There's always going to be a demand for quality leads. even in the middle of a pandemic. If you're driving 100 quality leads, an advertiser is going to want, or a buyer is going to want those quality leads no matter what is going on. Because at the end of the day, they're trying to drive conversions, they're trying to sell products, they're trying to move contracts or services. And at the end of the day, if you can provide quality and you're focused on quality every day, and every day you go in, you make sure your ad copy's honed in, that the customers you're sending are great, then you're always going to be in demand. Even when, you know, everything hits the fan, you are going to be in demand, and that's so, so important. The last two are kind of a similar matching up, which is staying ahead of change, looking at, you know, weather patterns, droughts, fires, who knows what's going on, and being able to adapt to changes, but also regulatory or political changes. A big example is solar panels. Depending on who's in charge in which state, you might have $500 to $2,000 worth of credits that you can start using in your ads because the government's assisting. Maybe that government plan's changing. Maybe, you know, Medicare's changing. Who knows? But staying ahead of change is not just a pandemic or technology. It's also society and looking at what's going on and how to pivot. And of course, keeping your eye on your competition. Use them as a resource. If you see them trying something, you should be trying something. Spread out and don't just stay inside that box. And I did hint already at the beginning about cross-selling, and that's really a huge part of how you were able to navigate through the pandemic. And this is one of my favorite graphs that we've come up with, which is like a spider graph, if you will. And we're talking about the demographic of your user and where we can cross-sell to. And for us, if we look at, you know, the demographic on the left, if you were super focused, let's say, on bathroom remodeling at the beginning of the pandemic, where do you pivot? We can see from homeowner and the demographic here on the left, we know that our users can then go and pivot to financial, insurance, not travel during a pandemic, but other verticals where they can cross-sell. If you own a home, then we can sell you insurance. We can probably sell you automotive packages. We can probably, you know, look at pet offers or pet insurance, changing your energy provider. There's lots of opportunity for us to cross-sell and being nimble. And that's a huge part of you as an affiliate, not only a multi-channel approach, but looking at multiple verticals as well, but ones that go hand in hand. If I'm building a mail list, am I starting with home services, but then I'm mailing them on insurance products, maybe home automation down the road, and really thinking 3, 4, 5, 6 steps ahead so that my leads are able to still be coming in, even if I have an issue with a traffic channel or a vertical changing. And this is where we look at the offers are very evergreen, but how do you as an affiliate stay competitive and stay evergreen yourself? And it all comes down to being able to have this multi-channel, you know, multi-ad, multi-level approach to making sure you're competitive and able to adapt and stay on top of things like, you know, change in the environment, change in society, or just change in your technology and your ad platform. So these are just things to keep in mind as we look at the challenges that you're facing. So this is where I already kind of hinted. I'm going to talk a little bit about the quality of leads and why it's important. And this kind of brings everything together. But there is a great talk after this with Jason Hunt. I already mentioned it. He's going to talk about Facebook leads right after this presentation. I think he's an excellent speaker when it comes to Facebook leads and turning those leads and finding quality on Facebook. And I think if you've enjoyed this presentation, you're really going to enjoy that. So I highly recommend talking to Jason or just watching his presentation, because he'll go one step deeper into what I'm going to talk about here. But when we talk about how to drive quality leads, 5 main areas that I really want to hone in on for you to focus. If you take anything away from this presentation when we talk about lead generation, it's these 5 things. Number 1, understanding the product or service. And this is just so simple, but so easy, is you have to really think about making that first impression. If you have that ad that your customer is seeing, whether it's an email or Facebook or search, and that message isn't continuing all the way through because you don't understand the product or the price point that's being sold, you could drive a great lead and lose it because that customer is just not interested in, say, a product for home services that doesn't match up with what that agent's going to sell them at the end. One of the things that has always stuck with me is no one goes on Facebook to be a customer. People don't go on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or social to be sold something. They go on there to catch up on the news, the memes, whatever's going on. So if you've got them to click your ad, you've done the hard part already. So make sure your messaging matches up with the actual product you're selling, the price points, whatever they might be getting for free or government assistance. Do the research, know the product, know the service, know what the call center agent's going to say, and build that in so that you keep that customer engaged throughout the journey that they're taking. Again, this goes in with knowing your customer, which we've already spoken about, and setting your ad copy. I promised I wouldn't talk too much about ad copy because that's what I always talk about. But ad copy is so important, and it goes hand in hand with understanding your product. Let's be honest, not everyone's great at writing. Not everyone's great at speaking. So invest in an ad copywriter, work with an agency that can create content for you if you need to, whether it's mailing content, whether it's your Facebook ads. If you can't do it yourself, find someone that can do it for you, because you don't want to lose someone with bad ad copy, stale content, typos, something that looks unprofessional. Make sure you're investing either your time or your money into good, clean ad copy. I can't emphasize that enough. Lastly, and this is something that will always hit home for me, is looking at quality over quantity. And this is self-explanatory again, but if you're an affiliate who can drive 100 quality leads, you will always get paid for it. It's really important to understand that on the back end for an advertiser or a lead buyer, there's an actual product or service being sold. If you're selling them 1,000 leads and you're like, yeah, I got 130% ROI on the front end, I'm excited. That's not always going to back out on the back end. So you have to remember how these products and services are being sold. So it's better for you to focus on quality up front, maybe break even, maybe a low ROI, maybe a little in the red, and work with your account rep who is either a network or a direct lead buyer to get those bumps, get those payout increases based on the quality that you're sending. If you're driving low quality leads, two things are going to happen. You're either going to get rejections, so leads after the fact that are rejected because they didn't qualify, they had no intent, maybe their phone number didn't pick up, or two, you're going to just get paused, and now your campaign's out the window. So for us, when we talk about Evergreen Verticals, you have to have that evergreen approach in your thinking to driving quality so that I'm working in tandem with the person that I'm working with and working with that platform. And that also goes with everything I'm talking about. Is we're not talking about cloaking ads or hiding your ads from an advertiser or a platform. We're talking about working in a partnership with your traffic channel, with your advertiser or lead buyer to make sure that you're profitable. You're working with the things that you're running on the ad channel. You're working with Facebook and the power it has, with native, whether it's Taboola or Outbrain, and you're driving quality through using the benefit of their system versus trying to hide everything and make a quick buck. That's not what we're talking about here today. We're talking about driving quality leads and why it's important to your long-term success. So you can have a bobthebuilder.com where everyone's going to and they're excited about it, and they're going through your channels. They're finding you on search organically. They're finding you on Facebook and Instagram, and you're driving thousands of quality leads a day or a week, and you're able to be profitable. And that's what all of this is about. And this comes back to the last point here, which is setting your goals. It's really, really important for you to know the KPI or the back end metric of the advertiser. How many appointments is it a 20% appointment rate? Is it a 20% contact rate? How does the advertiser look at quality for your leads? And then use that and backtrace that to, how do I increase engagement? How do I make sure that they want to talk to that agent? How do they respond to that email? Making sure the messaging all matches up. You have your own ROI metric on the front end or CTR that you're looking for as an affiliate, but you have to think about the back end and what the buyer or lead buyer is looking at, because your quality might not be their quality and their quality might not be what you're looking for. So really understanding the metrics and the KPIs that are involved from both sides, so you can set your goals with either your account rep or yourself to make sure that at the end of the day, that campaign works for both sides. We know there's a demand for leads. We know you have leads, and we just have to put them together in a way that works for both sides. I don't want to dive too much into this because we get sucked into social or search or native in terms of what traffic works best. But all traffic works best if you can find what that traffic is good for. You could be driving leads through Google Display Network, through Gemini and Yahoo, through Instagram, through TikTok. We know I have publishers that are driving TikTok traffic to auto insurance offers and other offers, and it's working great. So you don't want to limit yourself to one traffic type. But one thing that our affiliates have found that helps is by taking a little bit from each pool, a little bit of social, a little bit of search, a little bit of native, maybe coming back with organic and email traffic, and kind of using that multi-traffic approach. So I would definitely suggest one of the strategies that we've seen that's been very effective for our partners is taking a little bit from each of these pools, expanding upon it, going from one and then developing another and another, and seeing the ROI increasing. Taking what you learned about the vertical when you've been running it on search or Facebook and applying that to native, or applying that to your emailing, or applying that to your push or your SMS. Using everything you're learning to then develop a new channel will make you both more adaptable, but also make you more of an expert on the product and make you be able to generate high quality leads. Which brings us to the end, and obviously a little bit of selfish self-promotion, if you will. Obviously, ClickDealer is a network. We have a great promotion going on right now where we're giving away a Porsche at the end of July, over $500,000 worth of prizes. You can check that out at clickdealer.com/nitro. If you're a partner already, or if you sign up, you can still qualify to win prizes. So you can check that out yourself. It's on all of our social platforms. And lastly, I just want to thank all of you for paying attention here. I hope you've taken something away from this presentation. I'm very passionate about lead generation. I think as an affiliate marketer, or as affiliates or media buyers, there's a huge opportunity for you to dive into these evergreen verticals, into this multi-traffic channel approach that we're talking about. And if you want to join ClickDealer or talk to myself or someone else, you can sign up at clickdealer.com/lead-gen, and you can talk to one of our lead gen experts. Which brings us to the end of the presentation. So I hope you've enjoyed it today. I'm very much looking forward to any questions from Ralph or from the audience that I'm more than happy to answer. And of course, I'll be here for the whole conference, so you can message me on the platform as well.
Thanks, Henry. Fantastic presentation there, and also just some of the insights that you went through. If you have got a question for Henry, maybe you want some advice, some help, just put it into the chat umbrella and I will put it to Henry. But I'm going to start off, Henry. Yesterday, I asked one of the other presenters, I've got $1,000. What do I do to get started? But actually, I suppose the first question is, how much money do I really need to get started? Is $1,000 enough?
I think $1,000 can be enough depending on the platform you're working with. And I think it's really important to understand the math involved, right? If you're driving leads on Facebook versus native, for example, at Taboola or Outbrain, there's no perfect answer. I would say whatever you're most comfortable with in terms of being able to get data. You could run, for example, let's use Outbrain or Taboola as an example for native. If you've got a $32 CPL on an offer, let's say it's a bathroom remodeling campaign, and you want to split test a number of campaigns, you could be running $50 to $100 on each A/B split test, and maybe $1,000 a week to try and find out what's working. But really, it just comes down to, can you afford to spend that money, and are you willing to pay to get data? When we launch campaigns with our partners, that first phase is always a testing phase. It's let's see what's working, let's see what placement's working, let's see what ad copy is working, and then we optimize. And if you only have $1,000 to spend, then you're going to want to start with a cheaper traffic source. But with lead generation, that's going to be more difficult. And so there's no quick answer to it. I think one of the things I said, which is important, is setting your own goals. So if you're working directly with a lead buyer or working with a network, let them know what you have to spend. Let them know, what your goals are, how much you want to make a day, what verticals you're interested in, and then work backwards. Don't just jump in, think about it first, because once you've spent that $1,000, it's gone if you don't have anything else. So I definitely think setting your goals, working with the people around you, talking to your reps at the traffic channels, really understanding their insight will help you make a more informed decision.
Good advice. Well, my second question, you mentioned ad copy. I'm just wondering if you've got any tips about how to come up with good copy ideas. Are you kind of on the pulse of the trends out there? How much research do you do? How do you come up with ad copy?
So for me, it's a little different. I mentioned at the top, I have a background in journalism and English. So I'm a little old school. I'll sit down, I'll just start writing. I'll start writing like 5-letter phrases that come up with a topic, changing words around and just kind of brainstorming off of it. And I always use paper. I'll come up, I'll write down 100 things and then I'll go through and I'll say, this is what works for me. But it's not the right approach for everyone. I definitely wouldn't suggest that. I think there's 2 ways you inspire yourself with ad copy, especially with lead generation. Number 1, go look at the advertiser's product or page. What are the main words that they're looking at? What are the main things that they're selling? What are they highlighting about their own product or service? And then pulling that into your ad copy and coming up with some iterations of that. And the second thing is you already spoke about, which is what's in the news, what's trending. So for example, we talk about flooding or power outages or fires. If that's trending and you've got an approach with solar panels, home repair, insurance, bring that into it because you're able to then get that engagement. It seems fresh. The user engages and pops with it because they relate with your content right away. So I definitely think there's multiple ways to look at it. And those are 2 of the main ways we encourage our affiliates to look at it.
Now, you talked about a few different traffic channels. And for example, in my simple view of the world, I'm interested in live streaming video. So I understand how YouTube works, particularly for affiliate links, but I don't really understand other areas that many of our viewers are probably involved in. And I saw the Yahoo logo. And certainly to me in Europe, I was thinking, Yahoo, is that still a thing? Is that still relevant? So that shows my naivety a little bit. But I guess the question is, what traffic channels would you recommend, particularly for somebody who's starting out? So back to my $1,000 question.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. So we have a lot of logos that I put out there. And the reason for that, and I kind of touched on, is that there's users everywhere. Where you could use stuff like Reddit or Quora, for example, as other traffic channel examples that are not saturated. They may be harder to drive a quality lead, but there's users there. There's users that are looking for products and services, or they're on there and they're thinking about their bathroom remodeling somewhere else. So I think for us is there's 2 approaches. You go where everyone is and you try and chase the gold in Facebook or native, and you're battling with those high costs or high CPCs, or you go somewhere else and you try and build things out. I think for me, I can't say there's one traffic type, but I would say don't stick with one traffic type. I think one of the things that people get sucked into is just focusing just on Facebook or search or Google Display, for example. And what happens is they only laser in on that, and then an update comes out or something changes or costs skyrocket. And now they're just pausing. They don't have a backup plan. I think whatever you're doing, you need to think, how do I get the most amount of money out of this dollar? So if you're driving Facebook, how do I get an email out of that? How do I get a customer that I can then retarget? And that for me is the number 1 thing, is thinking about a traffic channel that you can then retarget and build things out. If I'm an affiliate marketer, I don't want that dollar to be used one time for that click and then never again. I want it to be used, now I can retarget because I've got their email. I can be sending them an email list that's probably backing out to a website that I'm building out organic traffic to. Now I'm a content expert. Next time they look for something in home services, or they're looking for pest control or whatever it is, they're coming to me. Right. And so I think that's where it's kind of a different mindset than the basic burn and churn of affiliate marketing, running campaigns, pausing campaigns. We're looking at how do you build out a holistic approach, if you will, to performance marketing, where you can hit a vertical with multiple channels. One can go down or one can be paused or one can not be profitable, but it's all kind of feeding each other. So kind of a roundabout answer is find something, test it. I would always say for lead gen, your 3 best places to start are social, search, or native, and then build from there. And obviously there's tons of different platforms you can test with, but one of those 3 and then pivot to another once you're profitable and able to make things work.
Yeah, certainly in terms of special interest communities. So again, back to something I'm kind of super familiar with is cameras, camera technology. And most camera people are going to be looking on YouTube they're then going to go to Facebook communities, so Facebook groups, and then possibly after that Reddit. So those are kind of the three places that you find most camera people. And it's interesting because if you do a search on YouTube for, the latest camera, how do I do a time lapse, or what apps are there, you get better results on YouTube than you do on Google search. So I've heard that from a lot of people where they're like, I don't really use Google to search for detailed things on cameras. I go to YouTube. So it's kind of understanding your community as well, isn't it?
Well, who doesn't want to watch a quick 2, 3, 4-minute review of a product before you look at it? I just bought a new webcam because I spilled water on my laptop this week and the camera died. Where did I go? I went to YouTube and I looked at reviews, and I wanted to see the quality of the camera. That goes for, you can use YouTube definitely for lead generation as well. I haven't really tackled it as a main source, but you can definitely use it because you can build out, stuff based on contractors, if you're doing plumbing or something else, and you can really build out some engaging content for as little as like $100 on Fiverr. You can get a video put together for home services and be rolling that on YouTube. So YouTube's a huge opportunity for a lot of people. It's probably underutilized, but it's definitely it's very different from some of the channels that I'm talking about. But I agree with you. Go where your customer's going. If you're looking for example, an emergency plumber service, so you're looking at leaking roofs, leaking sinks, where do people go? They talk to their phone now, they search with voice, or they type it in and they search on their phone. So why wouldn't you be targeting search for that? If you're looking at something that people are researching more, like a bathroom remodel or kitchen remodel, probably native's going to work for you, or a Facebook community, like you just said, where they're going to be looking for more detailed answers. So some of this is built in already, but then you go outside the box, you look at Reddit, you look at Quora, you look at other types of traffic channels. It really is endless if you can think about where's my customer going to be, because they're not necessarily a customer yet. They're just looking, they're exploring, and you really have to get them into that channel, and you have to be creative.
Henry, it's absolutely fascinating talking to you. Just tell us again, how do people get hold of you? Because unfortunately, I'm going to have to wrap this session. But if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Very easy. Obviously, I'm going to be here, so you can click on my profile during the conference. But clickdealer.com/lead gen. You can sign up there. You'll get connected with one of our lead gen experts if you want to learn more about what we're doing. It's ClickDealer on all social. And I do want to do one more shout out, Ralph, to Jason, who's coming up next. He's going to be talking about driving Facebook leads. If you found this interesting, you're going to find him 10 times more interesting. He's excellent when you talk about driving quality on Facebook. So Jason Hunt coming up next. He's going to be an awesome speaker to listen to. I know I'll be tuning in.
Well, you've done my job for me. You should come to Marbella. That's the, should get on a plane, leave Toronto. I know you
don't tempt me with a good time, Ralph.
Well, thank you so much, Henry. Absolutely fantastic presentation. If you want to watch this back, it will be available on Facebook and YouTube pretty quickly, actually. If you're on the Brella platform, as Henry said, you can connect with him there. We'll be back at the top of the hour, so that's 15 minutes time. It is Jason Hunt. Thanks for the shout out. And the session is called Quality Leads on Facebook Do Exist, How to Convert Facebook Leads. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Ralph.
From day one, Crack Revenue's tagline has been, "Follow the whale." 10 years later, it's truer than ever. Unlike most CPA networks, we test all of our top offers using our designers, media buyers, and analysts to make sure the funnel is working and that the offer is more than profitable. Then we share the recipe with our affiliates. Simply put, Crack Revenue is made for affiliates by affiliates. It's the whole idea behind Follow the Whale. That way, everybody wins.